Thursday, 9th of December 2021. Greetings from Rwanda's capital Kigali. Heads up on tonight's edition. This Thursday, President Paul Kagame attended Tanzania's 60th Independence Day celebrations.
On Thursday, Rwanda joined the world in celebrating International Anti-Corruption Day, and officials highlighted the country's commitment to have increased the recovery rate of funds embezzlement from 44.3% in 2017 to 90% by 2024.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And my name is Martina Awera.
Martina, you're okay?
I'm very okay. How are you doing?
Good, good.
All right.
And of course, kicking it off, President Paul Kagame has reiterated that education for all is essential and that children should be given a proper upbringing and instilled with sort of values that will later make them responsible adults, going hand in hand with quality education. The Rwandan head of state made the remarks while virtually participating in Education Above All Foundation's plenary session on Educate Every Child, Zero Out of School Children at the 2021 WISE Summit. The summit is a flagship initiative of Qatar Foundation under the patronage of His Highness Sheikh Moza bint Nasser.
Indeed, access to education is critical. And education is not just about memorization. It is about equipping children with a positive mindsets. If we are to see tangible results and ensure that we build an effective and productive workforce, quality should also be going hand in hand with our objectives. And our partnership with Education Above All will be a catalyst for this. Having every child educated will attract further investments to equip our citizens with the necessary skills to complete or to compete in a global economy. We are already seeing this happen with the Hamad bin Khalifa University's proposal to start a master's degree program in cyber security on the campus of the University of Rwanda. The Sustainable Development Goals, among them Goal 4 on education, cannot be limited to wealthy countries. Otherwise, it will not be inclusive and equitable. I encourage other countries to join our efforts to ensure no child is left behind.
This Thursday, President Paul Kagame attended Tanzania's 60th Independence Day celebrations. Rwandan traders as well as political analysts find that Tanzania has done its utmost to improve trade and bilateral for the better, owing it to the fact that currently 80% of Rwanda's imports pass through the port of Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania's 60th independence celebrations have been marked by a series of military parades, both by the air forces, the marine, as well as the infantry forces. Citizens from different areas of the country have also given various messages to convey their country's peace and development and are proud that their country has not stepped up into any war in the 60 years since her independence. President Paul Kagame was among the dignitaries who attended the ceremony at Uhuru Stadium in Dar es Salaam. Rwandans who lived in Tanzania and those who carry out cross-border trade through Tanzania praised the leadership of the late President Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, who fought for the country's independence, and the way he supported Rwandans who had fled to Tanzania. They say that this in the end has drove to firm relations and cooperation between Rwanda and Tanzania. We work together very well. We managed to expand our trade activities. In terms of relations, Rwandans and Tanzanians relate well. They share some investment tips with us. They have also managed to fight corruption, especially during the transportation of our goods. So we learn from each other.
U Rwanda urasa nk'urukora ku nyanja kubera imibanire myiza n'imikoranire myiza ya Tanzania.
It seems like Rwanda is not landlocked because of Tanzania. Before Rwanda joined the East African community, we would only get goods from the Rusumo border. But as we speak, traders, tax authorities, as well as transporters can easily access the port of Dar es Salaam. It simplified importing goods because they can now reach the market easier and quicker. At least 80% of Rwanda's imports pass through the port of Dar es Salaam. Many countries in the region also use this middle corridor route that will soon have a railway line. Tanzania's President, Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, applauded the heads of state and government who attended Tanzania's 60th independence celebration. Tanzania's ambassador to Rwanda, Major General Richard Mutabayo Makanzo, emphasizes that his country's priority is to improve relations with neighboring countries.
Our government has to celebrate 60 years of independence, while we have a good relationship with all our neighbors, and we cherish to have good business with all the communities around and the world. And we cherish to have peace in our region. That's the big thing.
Tanzania gained her independence on 9th December 1961, where it was a British colony. The country later changed the name from Tanganyika to the United Republic of Tanzania after union with Zanzibar. And of course, happy 60th Independence Day to all Tanzanian brothers and sisters out there. Moving ahead, it's been about 2 weeks since scientists announced the discovery of the Omicron variant. Some key questions are still unanswered about this variant. The biggest concern being whether vaccines are effective against this new variant. While other countries are already administering booster shots, 93% of the African population haven't even received second dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Meanwhile, in Kigali, a two-day public stakeholder engagement meeting on partnerships for vaccine manufacturing in Africa has been concluded. RB's Gloria Mutesi set up with Dr. Nikes Ndembi, the head of the science office at the African CDC, to discuss, among other things, the outcome of this two-day meeting.
We have established at least 6 work streams within the partnerships for Africa vaccine manufacturing, which we call now PAVM, around market design and demand intelligence, around financing, access to finance, around regulatory. I mean, that's regulatory really strengthening capacity of our national regulators to be able to address issues around pathway for emergency use authorization. And lastly, around infrastructures. Because that's quite important that we do have build reliable infrastructures that we can actually be able to sustain the entire vaccine ecosystem. And lastly, I think, which is not the least, around research and development and talent development, to be sure that we have a pool of African scientists and researchers that can be able to lead some of these components around clinical trials and also phase 3, phase 4 clinical trials that will enable those vaccines move from phase 1 to really delivery. Over.
Well, some people would argue that PAVM has a bold goal of enabling vaccine manufacturing industry in Africa to produce and supply 60% of the total vaccines needed on the continent by 2040, up from less than 1% currently. Would you say that this is achievable, and where are we in this regard?
No, extremely achievable. It's quite important that we all look at what we have so far developed as part of the framework for action. I mean, the meeting in Kigali is a little bit a kind of soft launch of that framework for action with really His Excellency President Kagame really leading that effort as one of the, at least the champions, if you look at it, even chairperson of AUDA NEPAD. So currently, we're looking at 22 diseases with epidemiological significance. So it's not only COVID-19, it has to be very clear. And we are encouraging actually member states to be able to diversify that platform mRNA vaccines, mRNA platforms, and other vaccines that are probably or other platform that will enable us achieve that 40%, at least 60% target by 2040.
In a race to produce vaccines as fast as we can on the continent, many initiatives from different countries are being formed. So won't this cause more trouble than it's worth?
I think that's exactly the purpose of PAVM, to be able to have a coordinating role, okay? And the African Union, using our convening power, we actually try as much as possible to bring all those, all member states, at least that have expressed an interest to vaccine manufacturing, are on that same table. That's why we have that framework for action that had been mentioned, and that which the soft launch just happened a couple of days on the 6th and 7th. Then now, once we have it, we'll syndicate it. So we're going to actually have meetings with different governments and member states to be able to ensure that we have a buy-in into that framework for action, which is quite critical to avoid what we did mention. We are actually lucky that there are several other instruments that are just coming into play. The African Medicines Agency that just came to force a couple of days ago. Then we have the African Continental Free Trade Area, which you can leverage on to be able to avoid like that competition that we're just trying to, now we're discussing. Then that market design and demand intelligence work stream. It's very critical, and it's extremely critical so as to ensure that all member states will have access to the 1.3 billion people that will need vaccines on the continent, either for childhood immunization, for pandemic threat like this, SARS-CoV-2 / COVID-19, and then other diseases. I think we all have space for this industry on the continent. I just want to mention that up to quarter, at least 25, we represent 25% of the vaccine market globally. So it means that our production should be able to meet the demand on the continent, even beyond the continent. Not only having African solution to African problem, but African solution to global problems. India has been the powerhouse for vaccines across the globe. But Africa could also be a powerhouse of vaccines for the rest of the world. I think we start thinking really bold and move this initiative forward, rather than looking at internally, inward only. So I think that's probably the best way. That's why African Union, with the convening power, we're moving this agenda, coordinating it without controlling. So we need coordination, cooperation, collaboration, and good communication to be able to move this agenda.
Thank you, Gloria, for that very informative story. Moving on, this Thursday, Rwanda joined the world in celebrating International Anti-Corruption Day, and officials highlighted the country's commitment to have increased the recovery rate of funds embezzled from 44.3% in 2017 to 90% by 2024. Betty Mutoni with the story.
Sanzimana Emmanuel provided information about corruption among local leaders, which resulted in positive changes in his community.
He was told that I was the one who reported him, and he wasn't happy. There was no other way because truth has to be told, but fortunately, he calmed down and changed his mind, and we are working closely, and our working relations have normalized.
While marking International Anti-Corruption Day, the minister in the president's office, Judith Wizeye, noted that effective fighting corruption isn't possible without the participation of citizens. Without participation of residents who are beneficiaries, nothing can be achieved. People should own these policies and be supportive in revealing corruption cases. Residents must be aware that services rendered by the government and other institutions are free of charge, and there is no need to pay extra. While recognizing best journalists with investigative stories about corruption, the ambassador's person, Madame Madeline Nirere, requested them to take part in fighting corruption. This again is an opportunity to remind institutions to operate in transparency, and the media must help us by doing investigative reporting. Corruption is an enemy who retards the country's development. Among awarded districts, including Kichuchiro with 75%, which is the first in Kigali in fighting corruption, while the southern province became the first with 66.3%. The district executive administrator of Kichuchiro, Mute Solange, mentions key factors for their performance. Every Wednesday we receive residents who come to seek for information and with different issues on land and meet them as leaders to avoid complaints from people that were lied, which will provide them right information. I thank residents for their collaboration, which has enabled us to attain these awards. When the country establishes policies and the people help us with the implementation, things go well. Residents have held the combined efforts in dealing with corruption, which has brought positive changes. This is good service delivery. Whenever we need services from the cell concerning land titles, we get quality services, no problem.
We have no land sites for construction and even no proper roads, and this brings disorderly settlements, which creates room for bribery. In 2018-2019, 210 people were publicly shamed for having been involved in corruption. In 2019-2020, the list grew to 236, and in 2020-2021, other 286 names pinned up for all to see. The government is committed to increasing effort in fighting against corruption from 86.5% in 2017 to 92.5% in 2024. Rwanda has been ranked first amongst East African countries and 49th globally when it comes to fighting corruption. Betty Mutoni, reporting for RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Betty. Moving ahead, on Thursday, the International Gorilla Conservation Program, together with the Rwanda Development Board, RDB, and Rwanda Tourism Chamber, started training tour guides on tour guides and tour operators on gorilla-friendly pledge, abbreviated as GFP. The program or campaign is aimed at promoting safe mountain gorilla tourism in order to keep mountain gorillas safe from infectious diseases. Olive Nete has more.
Gorillas are among species that have a big contribution to the tourism of Rwanda. About 90 tour guides and tour operators are being trained about rules of keeping gorillas safe from diseases. The guides and the operators say that this training about the GFP will be of a big help in solving the challenges they meet in their daily work.
The challenges were many. The first challenge would be reminding guests every time of the step to switch off their cameras, to switch off their flashlights, and to also not litter things in the park or eating things and some food near the animals. But the more we reminded them, the more they got frustrated and angry. Yeah, my expectations are that my job is going to be much easier now that we have this campaign. And by educating them about this gorilla-friendly pledge, then they will understand more about the rules, the do's and don'ts about visiting the parks and being near the animals. And it will make it easier. Whenever we remind them, they will remember they also have read. It's not like we're making up something.
The regional director of the International Gorilla Conservation Program, Welad Makambo, explains how gorillas are susceptible to contracting human illnesses and also notes that this pledge will minimize the risk of disease transmission.
Now, one of the things that makes the gorilla a risk to the gorilla is the disease transmissions from humans to gorillas, because gorillas, we share almost the same DNA, so which makes now being vulnerable to human diseases. And since COVID has come in, now it poses a greater risk to mountain gorillas. So it was very important and imperative that we now try to launch a campaign so that we try to make people know about the gorilla visitation rules to minimize the risk of the disease transmissions. And that's why we are here, because it's a online campaign that we are mainly targeting tourists and local or tour operators within the region. The reason that we are trying to have this is that we think that by knowing the rules, we can minimize the risk of disease transmission to mountain gorilla. Therefore, we can make them secure their future.
The regional coordinator of the East Africa Tourism Platform, Ivan Genzi, has noted that protecting gorillas from diseases will not only play a role in the tourism, but also in the biodiversity conservation of wildlife.
This is going to benefit, one, because we know that now the mountain gorillas, they used to be critically endangered. Today they are endangered species still, but we know that the better we conserve, the better we are good at raising awareness. We are protecting them, and also as they increase in numbers, it will also increase the people that are coming to visit them. And the future generations as well are going to benefit in a way that because they are going to have the opportunity to have the mountain gorillas with them. So it is very important, not only in terms of tourism, but also in terms of biodiversity conservation of wildlife.
The Gorilla Friendly Pledge campaign started in 2014 and was officially launched in 2020 by the IGCP. To date, there are 22 families of gorillas and more than 1,000 gorillas worldwide. Olive Nete, reporting for RTV News.
Thank you, Olive, for that story. Moving on, members of the Rwandan Women Parliament Forum are in a two-day discussion aimed at jointly examining how the principle of equality can be effectively integrated into the country's economic policy. Some members of the parliament praised Rwanda's progress in promoting gender equality. The gender equality policy in Rwanda aims to emphasize the importance of the principle of gender equality in various sectors in order to be considered in the planning of each level. In this regard, members of the Rwanda Women Parliamentary Forum are in a two-day discussion aimed at jointly reviewing the management of economic development policies with a view to the principle of equality. Some of the members of parliament praised Rwanda's progress in upholding the principle of equality and say that even the gap that exists in all the other sectors of the country is not extreme. Today is a great day to continue to be trained in order for every corner, every sector, and everything that we do, gender equality and equal opportunities for both genders to be put at the forefront of things that need to be done. The chairperson of the Rwanda Women Parliamentary Forum, Honorable Mbakeshimana Chantal, praised Rwanda's progress in promoting gender equality. We really appreciate the steps that we have taken to achieve gender equality. However, we cannot stay in the comfort zone. That is why among the issues to be discussed today, continued training in order to achieve this goal is one of them. We are thankful for the efforts that have been taken so far, but we also need to consider the domestic work that women do but are not paid for it. Some of these jobs are not valued due to the fact that there have not been a fixed budget for them. This is why we are meeting in order to fix such issues. The Speaker of the Chamber of Deputies in the Rwandan Parliament, Honorable Donati Mukabalisa, said that while there is some progress to be content with, there is still a difficult task to be done to increase the number of women in the economic system. Amongst our duties as members of the Parliament, we vote on the national budget in line with analyzing the set priority policies. One of the things we are grateful to our government for is the fact that all Rwandans are presented with equal opportunities. There is a lot that still needs to be done in terms of filling the gap of gender equality that is still there in order to keep developing our country. For example, the number of women who are doing domestic work and are not getting paid is still high. The number of women who own their own businesses are still low. These numbers need to be worked on immediately. Figures provided by the Gender Monitoring Office show that women in the private sector have 15% of large enterprises, and those with small enterprises are 33%, and those in economic decision-making bodies are 32%. They are figures that members of parliament say need to experience an increase.
And on behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen, thank you very much for being with us. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And my name is Martina. Stay safe.
And have a good evening.